Alright, hello everyone and welcome to today's Gems of War video. In this video I have for you my scouting report for Wild Plains Week that begins on March 11th, 2024. This will be the final week of the current campaign, so a lot of interesting things are going to be coming in via the Battle Pass. And as far as the kingdom itself, it is a fire kingdom and it has an attack bonus. So it's a pretty good kingdom to invest in as far as fire kingdoms go if you're trying to go for level 20. If you had another reason to go for trying to go for level 20, keep in mind that the Wild Plains faction, the Labyrinth, which we'll talk about later, is considered by a lot of people to be one of the hardest pure factions to go in the game. So if you happen to get Wild Plains up to level 20 before you give the pure faction a try, you'll have that full faction horde boost, which can make the difference between spending a lot on the Labyrinth or spending a lot on the Labyrinth. Okay, so the Wild Plains is kind of in the southwest, near the southwest corner. You can see it, it's kind of between Blackhawk and Divinian Fields. And another thing to note about Wild Plains is its arcane trait stone, which is the Beast trait stone, is only available in Wild Plains. So if you're watching this video during Kitar week, which you should be doing, then and you know that you need to grind this particular trait stone, then you should probably do it. And know that you might not be able to get it as easily during Wild Plains week. So anyway, as for its maximum power, as of right now, its maximum power is level 27. Now, it will go up a little bit during Kitar week, but once we get to Wild Plains week, its maximum power will be 29. So it is not possible to get level 20 and power 30 with Wild Plains yet, but that will be coming soon. All right, take a look at the Core 4 and 4 more. So the Core 4, as usual, is going to be the 4 that you get with the Epic Trials. So we'll start by looking at this rare troop called Soothsayer. Since this is a rare troop, you'll be able to get this from the gold chest, so you probably already have it. He chooses a purple gem and destroys its row and column, and then gives 1 to all skills on all other allies. So it doesn't give any boosts to himself, but gives it to everyone else. And he also starts the battle with full mana, and he also gains brown mana from brown gem matches, which will help him fill up since he uses brown mana himself. Overall, it's a pretty good troop. If you happen to, you kind of need them for the Epic Trials anyway. So if you happen to have him, just keep an eye on him as you're opening up the gold chests. You'll be able to send him to Mythic in no time, get him to level 20, and get his traits taken care of. Our second one is the Gorgon. Gorgon is, he explodes a row, deals a certain amount of splash damage to the first enemy, and knocks them to the back. He starts the battle with 50% mana and reduces damage from skulls by 50%, so a decent troop to put at the top of your lineup. The only thing I don't like about him is he has to do the splash damage to the first enemy, which means that he'll do that damage to that first enemy and half of the damage to an enemy that is directly below him. But since he has to target the first enemy, there's no possibility of doing splash damage to a troop that is above that enemy. It also knocks him to the back, so that can help you with dealing with teams that have to be organized in a certain way. So there's pluses and minuses to this. That's certainly worth getting, and it's only an ultra rare, so you'll probably get this in the course of the game naturally. Next, we have Sunweaver. Sunweaver is the quest giver for Wild Plains. So if you have completed the kingdom challenge, then or the Kingdom Quest, then you already have Sunweaver. Sunweaver gives a certain amount of attack, armor, and life to an ally, and then 6 mana to them. The traits aren't as necessary for Sunweaver, but worth getting. Water Spirit, 1 magic for each blue ally, which would include Sunweaver, and giving a lot of stats to other allies is pretty good. Plus, if you manage to have a high magic, you can get a lot of attack on your first troop if that's where you're putting them. So, and it's a pretty good one. You will get a lot of high scaling attacks with Wild Plains, all the Taros that we have. Then finally, we have a legendary troop, Queen Moonclaw. If you're only looking for one more for Wild Plains, probably looking for this one. She creates 9 skulls boosted by green allies and enemies. Yeah, it is. 9 skulls boosted by green allies and enemies, and then summons a random null. Always good to have a summon to kind of backfill for anyone who's been kicked out. Do a search for null to see what troops you need to level up to go along with her, so that she's summoning good troops into your lineup and not just a bunch of weak ones. Her third trait's pretty good. Gives 2 attack to green allies when an ally deals skull damage, which includes herself. So if you're using her, you might want to make sure you have someone at the top that is doing a lot, that is green, so that you're getting the advantage of that. Of the 4 that we have in the epic trials, it's really only the Soothsayer that has that as well. So, and you wouldn't want to put Queen Moonclaw in front, because if she dies, then you can't resummon, unless you have someone else to control. All right, let's take a look at the 4 more. I have some interesting choices. My first one I've got is a common base, and this is probably not going to help people who are long into the game. But if you're still early in the game and you're still trying to look for some troops that might help you out in the short term, this might be the one to go for. It has Nature Link, which gains bonus green mana from green gem matches, which doesn't necessarily help the Festival Cow, but could help some of your other Wild Plains troops. The spell is a little interesting. It gives all allies magic-based life, 5 armor, 3 attack, and 2 magic, and then sacrifices. So if you had this troop in your lineup with Queen Moonclaw, you could basically just cast a spell, give a bunch of life and some other stats to some of your other troops, poof this out of your lineup, and then have it replaced with a random null. And yeah, that's, like I said, it's kind of an early game troop more than one that you'll see a lot in later parts of the game. Also really good in the arena for reasons that might be so. Berserker is a ultra rare troop, does a random amount of damage that is lightly based on your magic, and it's boosted by your attack, life, and armor, which at a 3-to-1 ratio. So if he has a lot of armor and life, this could actually do a pretty decent amount of damage for an ultra rare troop. He does have a reduction of damage from skulls by 20%. Not really a whole lot to go along with it. He does gain an attack. It does gain an attack point when an enemy casts a spell, but you're really gonna be using him more for the spell than for his skull attacks. So. And we have Chief Stronghorn, which is another legendary. Chief Stronghorn pulls an enemy to first place, deals magic-based damage to them, boosted by his attack, life, and armor, and again that's at a 3-to-1 ratio. He also gives all Taros 1 attack, armor, and life for every 4 or 5 gem match, so you can get a lot of stats with him on the side. So, but he is a base legendary, so you will probably be opening a lot of chests to try to find. But worth thinking about. So now we go for the mythic. So my recommendations for the mythic are going to be maybe situational based on there's a lot of there's three mythics right here. If you've bought into the battle pass that we're going for the current quest, know that you're going to be getting a brand new base level mythic during this week anyway. So you might not need to look for these in Soul Forge. But Tetris the Bull is one that I see people using quite a bit, even though I don't have him right now. He gains 2 attack, armor, and life when matching red gem. Granted, he's only applying that to himself. He's not applying it to everyone else on his. And he does Magic Blaze base splash damage to an enemy, boosted by his attack, life, and armor. You may be thinking, yeah, we've seen that before, but his boost ratio is 2-1, where some of the other troops that we looked at are 3-1. So Tetris the Bull is a decent one to look for. Lord of the Slaughter is the one I kind of tend to use because that's the one I have. He creates 6 brown gems and converts all brown gems to Doom Skulls, then inflicts 1-2 bleeds and 1-2 death marks on random enemies. And he also does 100% chance to ignore armor with skull damage as his third trait. So he's essentially doing true damage with skull damage. And this spell is okay. You can get lucky with those 1-2 death marks. But aside from that, it's also good to just. I think it's really good because you can basically just put these two together. So if you know that by converting the brown gems you have on the board, that he'll then just match them and do that true skull damage since he's the first one on the team, then you can get quite a bit. But it is not necessarily the easiest one to handle, and he does not count as Taros, which is a little iffy sometimes with assembling specifically Wild Plane. Now this third one is fine, I guess. He does 28 damage to all enemies boosted by attack, life, and armor. Knocks the first enemy to the back. It sounds good until you see the boost ratio is 10-1. He does give 4 attack to all red allies when matching red gems, so good to pair with someone who is going to have a high attack, being in first place. I wouldn't pair him with Lord of the Slaughter because that's just a lot of mana cost to go for just one particular. But yeah, if I was to make recommendations based on just these three, even though I don't have it, I would go with Tetris the Bull first, go for Lord of the Slaughter second, and then this one, if you just happen to get him, I don't really see like this that this helps me all that much from the teams that I've used. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at our weapons for Wild Plains. We have enough weapons already to be able to go for a power level 30, but just that much. So we have 14 right now. There are some good weapons here, but most of them are. There are 3 weapons that kind of fit into categories I normally like to see. First, we've got the Wild Cleaver. Wild Cleaver explodes a certain amount of green gems, grants a random status effect to all Wild Plains allies, and then summons a Wild Plane. So you've seen this already when you've seen my scouting reports. So this is the one I kind of like. It's probably maybe better for later players than earlier players, but if you don't think that you've got enough Wild Plains troops leveled up and traded, make good use of the Wild Cleaver. Well, there's two other really good options as well. First of which is the Horn Cleaver, which is right over here. Horn Cleaver does damage to an enemy boosted by Tauros allies and creates 6 green and brown gems for each Tauros enemy. This can be pretty good. It enrages itself, and your hero isn't always going to be the front of your line. And with Wild Plains, my hero usually isn't. It doesn't really help as much as it probably should, but it does help. And then we've also got the Primal Axe right over here. That deals a certain amount of damage to an enemy boosted by Wild Plains allies. Creates a mix of 6 green and red gems for each Wild Plains ally. Has a bunch of other upgrades, but they don't really help as much as it feels like they should. It's a pretty both of these are pretty good weapons. Don't really use them that often, but Horn Cleaver and Primal Axe can definitely help you out of some jams, and Wild Cleaver is good too. Let's talk about the faction weapon while I'm trying to collect myself. It explodes a row or column, deals a certain amount of damage to the first enemy, then jumbles the enemy team. Jumbling the enemy's team is always kind of fun. Again, it's another one of those enrage yourself type things. But this particular weapon is only going to be available during the faction assault. So if you think you want it, you're going to want to get it on Tuesday. But it's not absolutely necessary. But I will tell you what is absolutely necessary is the class weapon, which is Fire Ruby Staff. This is one of my favorite weapons in the game, to be honest. You get the enrage yourself. It also self-enchants. I love weapons that self-enchant. Love those. It does magic-based scatter damage boosted by attack, life, and armor. Again, at a 3-to-1 ratio, like we've seen for some of the other ones. And it gives all allies 2 to all skills, so it doesn't have to be a particular, doesn't have to be Wild Plains troops, doesn't have to be Tauros troops, it's all of them. So I use this weapon a lot in class trials when I'm not as sure about my team and wondering, and I just want to put a really good weapon out there that's just going to do a lot of scatter damage and make the class trial shorter. Particularly if like I said. So it is a really good weapon to get. You get it for free for 250 wins with the Shaman class, which is the best reason to get 250 wins with the Shaman. Because the Shaman class is okay. The best part about the Shaman class by far is the third trait, which all Tauros allies, which would include your hero, start with 50% mana, and that is going to help get your team going pretty quickly, assuming that you didn't have some of the other troops that start with bonus mana. The talent trees are okay. My guess is that you'll tend to go down the war column more than the other ones. There are some that don't matter, but this is one of the few that really matter, that you get something really good in level 100, where all Tauros allies gain 1 attack every turn. So aside from that, you get some decent help with yellow should you need them. It's an okay troop. It's okay class. Not the best, but certainly not the worst. Okay, so covered the class. Let's cover the pets. So your Kingdom Boost pet, which should be your top priority, is Chomp Chomp Chomp. You get the Chomp 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 from regular pet rescues, and of course the Starry one from doing the epic challenges. Make sure you do them because you never know when they're going to change it to when they're going to change the epic trials to something else. We've now gotten to a point where we've seen every single starry pet. and I'm just waiting because I know I don't trust them to leave good enough alone. Now that we've seen all of them, some of the other pets that are worth keeping an eye on. Bullyina is is it gives you a team boost bonus for Taros, but only in this particular PvP region. If you want a really good, better um, this overall Taros team bonus, you're going to go for Minotaur, which I don't have too many of. And you also have the small P.A.K.K.A, which isn't really as much of a team bonus, but it does give you a boost to your magic gem mastery, which a lot of us use, and it's good because one of the good things about this pet is it's always essentially equipped. So if you have it at the maximum level and you have 10 magic gem mastery, that's just going to help you in other places. The only one I guess that's worth pointing out is the Dinotaur, and that is the faction boost pet for the Labyrinth. And I guess now we're going to talk about the Labyrinth after I pick up our boost. There we go, or 1 hour collection, whatever you want to call it. So the Labyrinth is right over here. It's kind of in a bit of a mirror area of where Wild Plains is, kind of in that southwestern corner of the map. If you know where City of Thieves is, just look directly north and you should find it no problem. Labyrinth is a green-red restriction, and the Labyrinth is considered to be one of the, I think I mentioned this before, but bears repeating, considered to be one of the hardest ones for Pure Faction 500. So keep that in mind as you're exploring. But if you're just doing Faction Assault, green red restriction, a pretty easy restriction to get around. Um, so yeah, it does a lot. They do a lot of jumbling the board. So if you're bringing a team in, try to assemble a team that can handle being jumbled, because this one doesn't jumble the board. But I think this one knocks the last enemy to the front. This one knocks a random enemy to the back. King Minos jumbles the board itself. The overall, I don't really find myself using many of these troops from the faction. Although King Minos does have the all Taros allies start with 50% mana, which can be useful. It certainly is. Now, I would feel a little bit more. It is kind of in that same category as some of the other troops that we've talked about before, but it seems like with some of the other ones that the fact that your hero gets that anyway, and some others get it anyway. It's not. I don't feel it's as necessary, but it certainly can help if you don't have other troops in your lineups that use that. So definitely worth getting King Minos, but you'll probably get to them all. As for the guild event that we're going to have for this week, it is scheduled to be a Tower of Doom, and it's probably going to be a brown restriction. If you did the previous Tower of Doom, it is basically the brown version of the weapon that we got on that week, and so it should be a decent weapon. I think might not be one of the big. Oh, that's right, I forgot to tell you about the other doomed weapon from Wild Plains, Doomed Maul. This is the one that does splash damage plus more per tempering level. This can really do a decent amount of damage and can be sometimes a little bit safer than the weapons that do damage to all, because the ones that do damage to all are great until you get a lot of submerged. So this one does a little bit better against those. It's a pretty good weapon. It is, but not one of the absolute necessities. And neither is the one for the current Tower of Doom, although you will get it anyway because you need to have that weapon in your party in order to be able to get the score boost. And with Tower of Doom, we need all the score boosts we can get. And speaking of needing all we can get, please consider giving this video a like if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to this channel and follow me on Twitch. And let me know in the comments below what you think of Wild Plains Week. Is this one of your favorite kingdoms, or is this a kingdom that you forgot existed in this game until just now? And with that, I will see you in the next